and welcome to the Popcorn Junkies. This is a review of Brazilian movie, The Secret Agent, starring Wagner Moura, who we'll all know as Pablo Escobar from Narcos. It's a Brazilian film, as I say. He's been nominated for Best Actor Oscar. It's caused quite a few rough ripples and waves in the awards circuit at Cannes and places like that. It's directed by, I'm sorry if I pronounce his name incorrectly, Kleber Mendonça Filho. And it's set in the 70s. It's set in the sun-baked 70s, it's set within the sun-baked 1977, which was a specific year. It was a year when, well, actually, to be brutally honest with you, I think it was the year in which Star Wars was released, but it was also the year in which the film Jaws was doing the rounds. And there's the kind of relevance of Jaws to this film works in so many different ways. It's bizarre. This film involves and incorporates a severed leg found within a shark, very a la Jaws, that then goes on the rampage, kicking and attacking people having sex on the streets of Brazil. I kid you not. There's magic realism in this. It's a political dissident film. It's about the disappearances in Brazil. I think when we think of South America, I don't know if you do, I think of places like Chile, I think of Argentina, I think of the disappearances in countries like Colombia, but I rarely think of them necessarily in Brazil. But this is a film about politically motivated assassinations, disappearances, and that febrile, volatile history that many countries in South America tragically have. It starts brilliantly with a scene that's in the trailer where he pulls in to a petrol station and there's a body just lying on the forecourt with a piece of cardboard over the top who's been killed some time ago. And we discover that he was shot a couple of days ago. No one's come to get the body. Was it a political shooting? I mean, again, another country we think of where there are many sort of killings and kidnappings and all that kind of stuff is Mexico. This felt very Mexico, this opening scene. So he pulls up, he's only got a bit of cash, he needs to fill up the car. We don't know where he's going, we don't know where he's en route to. And there's just this body, there's just the sound of flies buzzing, these stray dogs keep rushing over to want to lick at the remnants of the shot out brain, and they want to lick the blood, and they presumably want to eat the corpse. And so you have this quite sweaty, hot, sun-baked, bright yellows. I mean, the thing I remember about 1977 is not only Jaws and Star Wars and all that kind of stuff, but I was collecting Figurini Panini football stickers. And so the Brazilian football club strip, the yellow and the green, they were everywhere. I don't know if the World Cup was in 76 or 78 or 74 or whenever it was. But those mid-70s were almost defined by those colours, the Brazilian football strip colours. And this film has those fucking colours stripped all the way through it. But Armando is our man, played by Wagner Moura, and we're following him. He's basically en route to reunite or to see his son, Fernando, who is living with his in-laws. His father-in-law is a projectionist in a cinema. You start this film and you think, well, why the hell is his son there? Where's the wife? Where's his partner? Where's the mum? And we discover that, of course, his wife, his partner, Fatima, the mother of his son, tragically passed away. This guy is concealing himself, or if he's not concealing himself, he very much feels that he's potentially wanted for political activity, communist activity, in the past. And so consequently, you have this sense that he's a fugitive. He's a fugitive on the run. I don't know if this is necessarily based on a true story. He then goes to this anarcho-communist kind of refuge. And the woman, there's an old woman who, no fucking messing, Donna Sebastiana is the name of her character. This really old woman. She's like the Dot Cotton of Brazil. Those women who look like they could snap, but actually, ironically, are sort of made of just girders or something. She walks around, she's kind of got, deadpan delivery. She's snappy, she's jokey. She's looking after a bunch of people of different persuasions and different backgrounds in Brazil who are all on the run or who are all looking to gain sort of different identities and things like that. Whilst all this is going on, you've got the idea of carnival going on. We meet Euclides. Is it Euclides, the civil police chief? And this is where things get really interesting. The head of the police is a fantastic actor. I don't know what his name is. Is it Carlos Francisco? Whoever plays the chief of police was definitely channeling the mayor from Amity Island Beach in Jaws, right down to even the design of his shirt and his jacket. And we have this situation in this film where Armando's son really wants to see Jaws, but the grandparents say, no, it's too much. And the grandfather, obviously, as a projectionist, he's like, no, it's too much for your son to see that. But meanwhile, in this film, we get this, there's a story develops, or a plot line develops, where they've brought this enormous shark in, they find a leg in this shark, and then a sort of investigation potentially is about to be instigated into whose fucking leg is in the shark. Very reminiscent of Jaws. And there's a similar kind of parallel story here where the chief of police is wanting to kind of PR manage the kind of publicity and the worry and the fear around this leg found in a shark story, in case it kind of runs out of kind of control, which it kind of literally does later in the film. So we have this corrupt bunch of police officers led by Euclides, brilliant, really, the actor relishes being just sort of horrible and repulsive and trigger happy. And he's got these hoodlums around him who are clearly willing to kill and shoot whoever they want. Meanwhile, Armando is put in hiding whilst they're trying to sort out how he's going to leave Brazil. The old woman, Dot Cotton, the Brazilian Dot Cotton, has managed to put him and a number of the other people she's got a kind of, a sort of escape house for. She's put them to work in the identity card office, which is great for Armando because he's also not only kind of keen to get out of the country with his son, he's also keen to know what happened to his mother. And this again speaks to Brazil, Brazil's past of the disappearances. Do you remember there was a film back in the 70s? I forget who it was directed by, very famous director. It was just called Missing. And it was about, again, the tens of thousands of people who have gone missing in South American countries. I mean, I filmed in Chile, and I had this one moment very curiously where we were filming with the Chilean RAF, and they landed us we went off on a detour. We said, where are we going? We landed, we met this guy with a kind of, well, he had like a sort of Franco cap on, and he was like chief of something. He handed a package to someone, and then it's a country in which things could escalate quite quickly, and before you know it, you could have your head left nailed to a tortoise or something like that. And so this is a film that is incredibly hallucinatory. It's a slice of history, though again, I don't know if it's necessarily based on a true story, though I'm sure it's emblematic of many stories. It's incredibly hallucinogenic in its storytelling. It's visually very creative, it's experimental in its coverage of scenes. The grain and the blitz of colours, the colours are almost blown out, and there's a kind of, you feel like you've literally landed in 1977 Brazil. It's fantastic. If I had any causes for concern with this film, it's very long. It's like nearly 3 hours long. It's 2 hours 40. And I felt there was a really obviously baggy section right in the middle of this film. A good 20-25 minutes where it kind of lost focus. It's kind of uneven in its rhythm. And on the one hand, he's on the run. On the other, he's being chased. The great sort of narrative detail that they thread into this is you've got Armando who's on the run. You've got the chief of police who's fucking, monstrous and frightening. And ironically, they strike up a kind of buddy friendship. Euclides, the chief of police, takes a liking to Armando. And so it's that weird thing of careful who you wish your friends to be, because sometimes being friends with a complete monster can be more irritating than being their enemy. And so you have this kind of curious relationship between Armando and the chief of police, which of course works for Armando because of course he's trying to stay undercover. He's trying to stay hidden. Meanwhile, back in Sao Paulo, two other hitmen, really fucking grisly looking hitmen, are sent out to get Armando by a man whose nose was put out of joint by Armando, our lead character, because Armando was a kind of a lecturer, and he didn't say the right things, and he challenged this business about its kind of, energy. I think it was into oil and energy. There was money involved, and basically Armando wasn't playing ball. So there's a hit on Armando. He's kind of on the run. The mother of his child has been killed. He's kind of an activist. He needs to stay low. He needs to keep low. And we keep, every now and then, we'll cut forward to this very odd moment, or sort of in the present day, where two almost research students, in the now of now, you can tell by their headphones, are researching the stories of what happened to these people back in the 70s, as researchers would now. So many things, we're listening to tapes of interviews and chats, and they're kind of listening to it, and they're sort of piecing the story together. And that was sort of like an attempt to kind of remind us, I think, in the present day, that there's reams of archival material of these stories and of these case studies that just potentially are in vaults and will just get ignored forever and a day. The hitmen subcontract to another hitman to try and get Armando. There's some really stressful, very bloody moments of mistaken identity, shooting the wrong people in hot pursuit. Armando, will he get away, won't he get away? But where I thought this film was at its best was when it lent into, like, for example, my lasting memory of this film one was Udo Kier, who has a cameo in this, playing, the chief of police wants to say that he's a Nazi who's been shot repeatedly, but actually I think he's a Jewish victim of the Holocaust who's mocked by the Brazilian authorities. Anyway, Udo Kier is an incredible, he always pops up, Udo Kier, in every film he's in with a curious cameo or moment, or he's just weird with his eyes popping out. He's sort of like the George Galloway of art house Werner Herzog-like cinema. It was good, it was gripping, it was sometimes funny, it was incredibly immersive. It was a real shot from the hip. That's our dog, by the way. It was shot from the hip. It had a real kind of inventive flair and a fizz, as I say, a sort of grainy, granular fizz of nostalgia and era. My problem with it overall was it was too long and it was too rhythmically disjointed. So, for example, in and of itself, there is a moment in this film where, there's this constant kind of narrative of them trying to get rid of this leg, which is incredibly funny. It's like a shaggy dog story, or rather a shaggy leg story. This story becomes an urban myth and it's actually talked about in the local press. And there are moments in this film where you're thinking, are they trying to suggest this is what's really happened? Who would believe that there's a rogue leg that's come back from the dead and is running around on a rampage, killing people? But we have this one protracted scene, which is incredibly enjoyable to watch, where you're watching the POV of an animatronic leg with hairs on it, running around, kicking gay people, having sex on benches, men having sex with prostitutes, and it really sticks with it and it goes with it. And so it tips and tickles towards magic realism. But where I actually thought this film was most captivating and most intriguing and most evocative was when it was not so magic realist, but it was actually a sort of sun-baked hallucination. That opening scene in the petrol station for me was absolutely a defining moment, which will, for me, really define this film. And in fact, it's lent on quite heavily in the trailer. A lot of the stuff in the cinema where he's kind of hiding out with his father-in-law, who's the projectionist, where he meets this woman who's interviewing him, who kind of is going to offer him a way out of the country. And I won't actually reveal the complete end of the film, but as we build to the denouement of whether he's going to get out, is he going to get his fake passport? Is he going to be able to reunite with his child? Is his father-in-law, the projectionist, his son's grandfather, this lovely avuncular guy, is he going to be collateral damage? There's a moment where you think, oh my God, he's going to get gotted. This is awful. There was a lot to like. It just needed a really heavy trim in the middle where there was quite a long protracted scene of almost too late in the day telling Wagner Moura's backstory, and we got distracted and it kind of killed the dramatic build, I thought. So I thought we had a really interesting dramatic build. It was lovely, really beautiful and refreshing to see a film, not a European film, not an Asian film, not a film but a Brazilian film. I haven't seen any South American cinema for a while, and this felt very, very South American. It felt inventive. It felt like it had its own language. There was a curious approach to the editing rhythm. There was a really challenging approach to the camera work and the exposure, and as I say, that sort of burnt outness of everything. So everything felt like we'd kind of gone back in time when we were watching something on like an old 16mm projector, which is kind of interesting because, of course, in the film there's the whole projection thing. The title of the film, Secret Agent, refers to, I forget the actual, there's a film within a film. There's lots of films within films in this film, right down to Jaws. And the film brings us right up to date. And I really like the way in which this film used documentary evidence to tell us what actually happens to Armando in the end. I'm not going to give it away. But we find out what happens to Armando, but we don't find out in the most obvious of fashions. It was tense, it was taut, it was funny, it was laugh-out funny. Wagner Moura, if that's how you pronounce his name, Wagner Moura, is sensational. He carries this film. He's nuanced. He's so informal. He does so much by doing so little. He's so immersive in every single scene. He's one of those actors that you feel supremely confident when he walks into any scene and you're watching him in any scene. You just think, oh God, I don't care what you do or don't do in this scene. You're just so at ease with it. It's his film, and it's not an egotistical performance. Often it's very quiet. Often there's a lovely tender sort of sexual romance between him and one of the women in the group, the Brazilian Dot Cotton has pulled together. She's a fantastic character, a fucking chain-smoking, take no bullshit woman who just fucking runs the fucking country almost. I mean, do not lock horns with a 95-year-old Brazilian woman, because I'm telling you now, they'll make mincemeat of you. All said and done, too long. That for me ruined its kind of dramatic punch, but there is a lot to like it. There is a lot to like it, and so I would give this film 87 out of 100.